Hello friends, we are here today on Market Street, downtown Denver, visiting the House of Mirrors. Market Street wasn't always Market Street, it was called Holiday Street, and this is where in the 1800s people would come to go and visit the madams, gambling halls.
No.
And saloons. So let's take a walk and I'll tell you the story. Back into the wicked Wild West of 1880s Denver, you could find to what was then known as Holiday Street, or McGaw Street, the row, lined with parlor houses, mansions, brothels, dance halls, hurdy-gurdy houses, and lowly cribs. As an out-of-towner, you would be offered a book to direct you towards a cordial welcome to strangers and promised all the comforts of home. To begin here on 20th and Holiday is Belle Bernard's house, a 14-room, 5-parlor, tall bungalow to gander a look upon her attractive, talented, well-dressed girls earning $30 to $100 an evening, 50% paid for her room and board. At a time when women's few other professional and respectable work as typists, clerks, seamstresses, and domestic servants paid a meager wage of as little a dollar a week. Or on to many A halls, first class in every respect, with 30 rooms, a music and dance hall, 5 parlors, and 20 girls to gander upon. At first, this strange street was named for William McGaw, named for a venturer living among the Arapaho First Nations. But he burned his bridges, and they renamed the street to Holiday Street. He was prone to violence with a liquor problem. Upset over the name change, McGaw left town, then to return, only to get arrested and suffocate to death in jail. But his lovely wife is named for Wawata Street, and the name has stayed. Changed to Holiday Street for a man named Ben Holiday, known as Stagecoach King, with a stagecoach stop in Denver. Upon his death in 1887, his family wanted their father's name removed from the street known for so many vices. Then to be changed to Market, for it was also home to many grocers, butchers, and vegetable vendors. Alas, we have come to this most famous Wild West lane to tell the story of the most famous Denver madam. Born Martha A. Nyman in Fayette City, Pennsylvania, 1845, one of 5 children to farmers Henry and Sarah Nyman. They moved to Erie, Indiana in 1850. Martha left her family sometime between 1860 and 1865, traveling to Kansas or Springfield, Illinois, first working as a freighter on wagon trains. Maybe a madam as well, being run out of Olathe, Kansas before working the cattle trails. She worked as a madam in Abilene, Texas, and Dodge City, Kansas, then owner of a brothel in Springfield, Illinois, 1865, at the young age of 19. A sign on her first parlor house read, "Men taken in and done for." There she became known as one of the best-known madams in the West, owning brothels in Dodge City, Georgetown, Colorado, and Denver, where demand for women was high due to the gold rush. Martha and 4 girls had traveled to Denver from Kansas by stagecoach and freight wagon. Equipped with a portable boarding house to be able to conduct business on the road, setting up shop at the many mining towns along the way. Martha was known to be a savvy businesswoman to set up camp below town, out of the way where patrons could walk down the mountainside rather than climb it. Known to be very good-looking, spirited, and competitive by nature, she first visited Denver in 1869 to scope out the prospective properties, but not permanently moving to Denver until 1876. First fined for drunkenness in 1877. First, she rented a house here on Holiday Street, then buying her first brothel at 501 Holiday Street, now Market Street, from Nellie French for $13,000. As well as the buildings on either side, business from other brothels was very competitive. In August of 1877, Martha, now known as Mattie Silks, engaged in a famous nude duel with another Madam Katie Fulton, the first recorded fight between 2 Denver women to duel alleged jealous feud over a man named Cortez Thompson. Mattie caught them in a compromising position and began to chase a shirtless Katie. As was reported in the Denver Daily Times, Katie and Mattie had an argument following a foot race. Cortez Thompson won the race and Mattie collected $2,000. A fight broke out involving several people: Mattie, Cortez Thompson, Katie, and Katie's lover Sam Thatcher. During the fray, Katie received the worst of it. Punched, knocked down twice, and kicked in the face, breaking her nose. Afterward, as Cortez Thompson returned to Denver in a buggy, another carriage pulled up beside him and he was shot in the neck. Although not fatally, Katie left town for a while but returned in September, where she had another fight with Mattie. This time, Mattie punched Katie, knocking her down and injuring her nose again. As for the most famous naked duel, Mattie and Cortez hosted a grand celebration for their engagement. Katie forced her way into the party and accused Mattie of stealing her man. The verbal sparring escalated into a duel, a gunfight, the first to be reported in Denver between 2 women. The patrons and townspeople lined Denver's Colfax Avenue as the 2 women stood from one another to finally settle the dispute. After a short count to face one another, they fired and only Cortez was down. One of Kate's rounds had hit Cort in the neck, and Mattie ran to him to stem the flow of blood from the flesh wound with a lace kerchief, whereas he was escorted to the hospital. Kate was taken to jail in restraints. The newspaper stated the incident as a disgraceful occurrence of the fast element. They left Denver to Kansas City and together found a newfound love for horse racing, where Mattie invested in a racing stable. All her horses lost at the track except for one named Jim Blaine. Yet she paid more attention to her stable of horses, often seen parading her finest down the street. News of Cort's daughter's death was informed to them, leaving a granddaughter named Rita, and Mattie adopted the orphan, placing her in a well-respected boarding house. Mattie was an intelligent businesswoman. She bought, sold, and rented properties throughout the 1870s, 80s, 90s, and early 20th century. Her real estate included a ranch in Yuma, Colorado, and a fashionable home at 2635 Lawrence Street, away from Holiday Street, red light district. From 1877 to 1897, her brothel was the most successful in Denver, known as the Queen of Denver's Red Light District. In 1898, Madam Jenny Rogers opened the House of Mirrors in Denver and quickly became more successful than any of the competition. Jenny Rogers, died of kidney failure in 1909, and Mattie bought the house of mirrors for $14,000. She continued to work as a madam, traveling, investing in real estate, and becoming a very wealthy woman. This building was constructed by Madam Jenny Rogers in 1889 and became the classiest bordello in the Rocky Mountain West. Another famous pleasure queen, Mattie Silks, operated the business until 1911, when it was closed by federal edict in about 1915. The building was a Buddhist temple and warehouse from 1920 until 1998. The structure is a contributing property to the Lower Downtown Historic District. In 1875, Mattie had arrived in Georgetown, Colorado, meeting a man by the name of George or Casey Silks, may be married, but with no evidence. They at least lived together by common law for a few years. They might have had a child, but there was no evidence of that either. Mattie arrived to Denver without George, the relationship to be over. Mattie had met Cortez Thompson in Georgetown, a well-known foot racer. Mattie bet on him and won $2,000. She operated one of the 5 brothels in town, where both Cortez and George occupied a room. Cortez had left with Mattie, leaving his wife and young daughter. They were married in 1884, 4 days after Cortez heard of his wife's passing. Court was known to be a gambler with a tendency for violence. Mattie had to support herself, and Court using her money for his bad habits. He bought her gifts with her own money. A unique gift he gave to her was a diamond-encrusted cross that became her trusty trademark. Soon the violence escalated and Mattie filed for divorce, but he convinced her to drop the proceedings. In 1898, they toured Great Britain and Alaska, where Mattie also opened a brothel. During their 3-month stay, they made $38,000. Cortez became ill and died in April 1900. Already laden with liver disease, coming down with pneumonia. She gave Cortez a rather large funeral and spent a small fortune on a tombstone, yet his grave remains unmarked. Mattie married a man named Handsome Jack Reddy. After many years of dating in 1923 at 77 years old, a longtime ranch hand. Married by a G.A. who died in May 23, 1931. Lying 1 block north of Mattie and Cortez. In 1928, Mattie was interviewed by the Rocky Mountain News. At 82 years old, unpublished for the prudish honesty of the paper, the reporter left with Mattie's smile good-humored mixed with a bit of contempt and a little pity. The look of a woman who believed she knew a great deal more about this world than we did, to have caused me for a few minutes to actually like her. In 1929, Mattie Silks, Martha Reddy, died from complications of a fall. Not many friends and family were left, only having $4,000 in real estate and $2,500 in jewels. With her marriage to Jack ready, the Old West ideals of parlor ladies began to dwindle down to nothing. The brothels to be shut down and sold off. Mattie retired to a quiet home 2 blocks away from the brothel she had owned and lived a quiet life with her husband, granddaughter, and great-grandchildren. An amazing story here where the Wild West began and ended. Here we have found Martha Reddy, the great Madam Mattie Silks, next to her famed love, Cortez Thompson, his unmarked grave. Jenny, her friend, Jenny Rogers, a few rows over, and her second husband, handsome Jack Reddy, nearby. Thank you for joining us on our historic tour, continuing our journey of Old West history in my favorite home of colorful Colorado. As always, the tales from beyond continue.